Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells. I am the creator and host of this podcast for over 5 years now, which is bonkers. I'm also the founder of the Feely Human Collective, a community that is dedicated, passionate, yearning, hopeful, feely, messy, mushy, all rooted in empathy, vulnerability, and emotional curiosity. More on that in a bit. But first, I want to introduce this episode, which is episode 245 on heartbreak, love, and toxic masculinity with artist and author Timothy Goodman. Timothy is the author of the new book, I Always Think It's Forever, a love story set in Paris as told by an unreliable but earnest narrator. In this conversation, we talk about heartbreak and the heightened romanticism of new relationships, the vulnerability of opening ourselves up to love, why service is Timothy's word for 2023, and the isolating, dividing, and bypassing power of toxic masculinity. I really cherish this conversation. I cherish all of the conversations on this podcast, but I really connected to Timothy. There is one moment in his book that I deeply connected to where he mentions growing up and seeing two adults in pain and how it, quote, made me never want to open up my heart. As someone who saw a lot of pain, saw a lot of suffering, saw a lot of stuff I shouldn't have seen, I certainly learned to shut down early on as a coping mechanism. And I connect to Timothy in that way. I'm sure I can connect to a lot of you in that way. And I'm grateful to Timothy to little Timmy and to Timothy, little Timmy for protecting him, and Timothy now for being open enough to write a book about being vulnerable and what it means to be a man and what it means to be an artist and how art is political. And we really get into it in this episode. We get very feely, and I loved every bit of it. You can order Timothy's book. It is out now. I Always Think It's Forever. You go to tgoodman.com/books, tgoodman.com/books. Make sure to order it from your local independent bookstore. If you don't have a local independent bookstore, go to bookshop.org and order it there. Bookshop.org supports independent bookstores. It's a great resource. But go to Timothy's website, check it out there. Give Timothy a follow on Instagram at Timothy Goodman. And I hope you enjoy the show. As aforementioned, the Feely Human Collective. So in January, on January 11th, in fact, a little less than a month ago, I launched a membership community for Feely humans like Timothy, like myself, folks who want to grapple and grow with the challenging, beautiful, messy powers of empathy, vulnerability, and emotional curiosity to really be witness to the whole of ourselves and each other in connection with one another. In this episode, in the episode, mind you, I talked to Timothy about rugged individualism and the toxicity of that. And what I'm trying to do with Feely Human in this membership community is to remind ourselves, because it's so easy to forget, because capitalism and what have you, right? So easy to forget that we truly, this is my belief, we truly grow in connection with one another. We need each other in that way. We need that mirror. We need that reflection. We need that perspective on our bias and assumptions and all of it. It's essential. It's essential. So it's what we are together fostering and creating over there in the Feely Human membership community. And if you join before February 11th, just in a few days, you can be a founding member, which is $20 a month or $200 a year. It comes with monthly expert-led workshops. We have weekly deep dive sessions on things like boundaries and listening and the books that shaped us. Those are led by me. We have a twice monthly emotional check-in cohort where we talk about how we're feeling and we learn to listen to one another. be present with one another's vulnerabilities. We have a Feely movie club called The Movies That Make Us Feel. We have, what else do we have? A deep dive space on grief. We have lots of spaces to talk about our mental health and our feelings and our joys, and just a place to connect with other folks who are in their feels. A lot of good stuff in there. Again, if you join before February 11th or by the end of the day on February 11th, you'll be a founding member, $20 a month. You can also join as a free member at any time. There's some cool stuff. As a free member, you don't get any of the events, although sometimes I'll open it up to free members. But yeah, join as a free member if you want to check it out. Just kick the tires a bit. If you also want to join as a founding member and you can't afford $20 a month, please reach out to me. DM me on Instagram at feelyhuman, or just email me hello@feelyhuman.co. That's hello@feelyhuman.co. And just let me know if you want a sliding scale option. I'm happy to accommodate. I don't want money to be an obstacle for a community like this. So if that's for you, great. Email me hello@feelyhuman.co. And please join. Please consider joining. Or please, if you can't, and you don't have the capacity right now or the energy, that's okay too. But if you could, please share it with your friends. Please share it widely. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about the community, go to feelyhuman.co/membership. That's feelyhuman.co/membership. And I'll make sure to include that link in the show notes. Okay, enough about that. Please leave a rating and review for the podcast, of course. That's a way to support me. And make sure to pick up Timothy's beautiful book, I Always Think It's Forever. It's available now. And enjoy this episode 245 on heartbreak, love, and toxic masculinity with Timothy Goodman.
La 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 la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights and the darks we face as humans, trying to be human on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. Yumi Empathy was created so that we can be witness to our collective humanity through the lens of empathy, vulnerability, and emotional curiosity. We aim to destigmatize mental health, lead fiercely with our hearts, feel our feelings without shame and judgment, and share our courageous stories so that others may feel less alone and more connected as Feely humans. Yumi Empathy is a brave place designed to inspire the beauty in each of us, because each of us, in all of our kaleidoscopic parts, makes up a magical whole that deserves to be seen. Today, I'm just a sensitive, soft, feely boy seated in front of another sensitive and soft, feely boy by the name of Timothy Goodman, an artist, designer, and author, asking them to podcast with me. Hello, Timothy. How are you?
Hello. How are you? I'm doing well.
I'm doing well as well. Happy to have you here. Happy to talk your book. We'll get into that. I read it. It's out January 31st. Yes. Very excited to talk about that.
January 31st. Yeah.
Very excited about talking about that and talk about feelings and toxic masculinity. But before we get into it, an emotional check-in. We always start with an emotional check-in. How are you really feeling? Let's get into it.
I was just telling you before we went on air, like I so want to feel refreshed right now after the holiday break. I do not, and that's okay. The question for me is, how do I meet myself where I'm at? How do I let go of the desire I have to feel more refreshed at this moment? How do I let go of the expectations and the disappointment that I might feel about it, and accept myself for being here, for feeling the way I do, and find opportunity in those moments, because everything is every moment could be a moment to refresh or to catch my breath, to find my feet on the ground, to find a sense of presence, to be here with you, to have a human conversation. And so that's where I'm at, and it's beautiful,
That is beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Meeting yourself where you're at. We talk often about doing that for others, and I lose track of, in that process, I often lose track of how to do it for myself. Do you relate to that?
Yeah, of course. I think we forget about ourselves, in the process of all this, in this thing called life, and if you're not doing, I don't know, if you're not doing for yourself first, how can you do on for others, in a real way? So me and my girlfriend talk about that a lot, even just when you think about a relationship, sometimes I said to Tina, my partner, recently, I was like, oh, it's an interesting thing, we've been together for 1.5 years, and I was like, an interesting thing I kind of forgot about, was the moment to like be sad by yourself, to like have a night where you're just sad, and it doesn't mean anything more. It doesn't mean, because sadness is different than depression and all of that. But to, if you're in a melancholy mood and you're feeling sad, and go have a sad dinner by yourself, and
do it.
Do it, and so often when you're in a relationship, and it's beautiful, like when you're feeling down or whatever, your partner's like, what's wrong, babe? How can I help you? All that kind of stuff, or like, let's go hang together. Let's let me, and there are many times where that is valued and needed. But then there's other times where I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling down, and I need to just sit in that space by myself. Because oftentimes, we talk about my new book, oftentimes those are the moments, as specifically a writer, as an artist, where I can really tap into my rawness of what it means to feel human, And I love that process sometimes, when I'm in it, because I can really connect to like something deeper inside of myself, and I can get it out creatively. Instead, a lot of times, most of our lives are just lived with these moments going past this, and you're trying to connect it, or let me write this thing down, or let me try to get this thought out, and it's gone in the wind, so I'm always trying to kind of like find those moments.
It's good, and it's very well said, and it's beautiful, and I feel like it's essential in that, and what I mean by that is, it's essential for many reasons, but one of the sort of crucial reasons I find that people forget is that if we're not sitting in the sadness, if we're not sitting in those harder feelings, those quote unquote harder feelings, we're just bypassing them. We're forgetting about them. And then the sort of the more we get used to, moving those aside or shoving them down or what have you, ignoring them, that becomes the pattern. And then when the harder feelings come up, or even harder feelings come up, right? Like, we don't even know how to identify them, or how to identify them in concert with how our body feels, or in concert of, you mentioned your partner, a relationship, right? Like, especially early on in relationships, I would love to hear you talk about this. Like, early on in relationships, I've been married for 13 years with my partner for 15.
Oh, wow.
And I still find this to be true, but especially early on in relationships, there's a sort of heightened romanticism where you do want to like be sort of emotionally connected and together all of the time. And there's a certain, or at least I'll put this on myself, there's a certain expectation early on where, like, if I was feeling bad, I was like very conscious of the fact, like, oh, how is this impacting her? And this is well before that I realized I even had depression. And now, 15 years on, there's a bit more understanding of like, Jessica Jessica can see the signs or see those moments, and we can be maybe a little softer together, or we can just sit in it because we've done that for years. So how like you're in a relationship, year and a half, still fairly new. How are the feelings? How are the feelings within that relationship? Like, what does that look like for you right now?
Well, it's interesting what you were saying. So Tina and I were in couples therapy together, and it's beautiful.
Excellent.
I recommend every couple, even specifically if things are good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when things are good, sometimes they're quote unquote good, and there's a lot going on that maybe neither of you have kind of talked about or dealt with. But what I've learned in couples therapy is that I'm a secure, I mean, I've always known this and agree, but like in relationship to Tina, my partner, I'm a secure attachment. And, like I'm always kind of like, I don't feel secure in relationships a lot, and assuming like, I assume like she's mad at me, or if I don't do this, then she's going to leave me or whatever. Sure. My brain is used to receiving love and intimacy in a certain way, as all of us are, and in obviously varying degrees. So it's like, noticing that and being able to like get in front of it and evaluate like, oh, this is my thing. Like, this attachment disorder I have is about me. And, because then I make matters worse, because then I'm like, I think this or I think that. And there's a lot of presumptions that, and it's like, but my liberation is tied to hers, in a lot of ways. And it's like our partners have direct access to our traumas and our triggers and all these things. And it's wild, and there's no roadmap for this shit. It's like,
there's no road. It's where we're going. We don't need roads. I love that. I feel like it's messy and as it should be. And I think what is beautiful about that, and I often remind the listeners about this, is like, yes, things like capitalism and certainly toxic masculinity, which you talk about, tend toward isolating us, right? Tend toward pitting us against one another, tend toward overvaluing like rugged individualism. And there's a certain, I guess, value in sort of finding our own way as people. But I feel like the more crucial bits are in what we find out about ourselves and each other in connection with other people. It's harder, right? Because we have a mirror for ourselves, right? We have a mirror, Tina is your mirror, right? And Tina is reflecting back on your own insecurities or your own attachments and stuff. And then there's that built-in accountability there, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's messy and tough.
It is. And it's obviously it's beautiful and liberating in so many ways. And I don't know, here we are, it's like just trying to figure it out as we go and trying to be human and empathetic as much as one can during that process, until constantly stay evaluating and stay questioning and stay curious and all those kind of things, so I wouldn't want it any other way. You know?
In your book, you do talk a lot about, it's a love story. It's a heartbreak story. What did you learn about yourself in that process? Because, you very, very beautifully and vulnerably share some hard things and some beautiful things. And certainly I'm like, gosh, I want to go to Paris and fall in love, right? Like what have you learned of yourself through that high love and then the sort of letting go of it?
Well, I showed up, I really like in the high love in the first part of the book, which was, very hunky dory and kind of going to Paris and taking that leap. I mean, for that, it was a big step for me because the year before that, I'd gone through a massive amount of depression, and coming out of that, I really vowed to myself to like do things for me for once, and through therapy, really connecting the dots over the years, like, coming from my background, coming from Cleveland, at a time when I was a horrible high school student, barely graduated, was doing every drug you could think of, having like go partying, and everybody from my childhood, they would have thought maybe I would have, been a manager at a grocery store or something, not that I'm just saying like, that's about as far as maybe so when I got really like activated when I was about 20, 21, and I stopped all that and I started taking all these community college classes in Tri-C in Cleveland, and really like just convicted with like this desire to like prove everybody wrong. And I was going to go to New York and be an artist and make it and all these kind of things, and to prove my family wrong and all these things. And I really, that really worked for me for a while. You know what I mean? And years later, after I'd done many tremendous things and had all kinds of kind of like accolades within my field, I wondered why I felt so empty. And this is obviously an age-old story, but it's like, for myself to kind of like come to face with why I felt, after all these years of working myself to the bone and putting and throwing everything at the wayside, whether it was relationships or friendships or family or whatever, just, for the sake of my career, for my work, why I felt so tremendously bankrupt inside, really forced me to be like, okay. And then going through as much depression as I went through in 2018, coming out again, saying like, okay, I'm going to do things for me now. I want to like, I've always wanted to learn French. I'm going to do this. I've always wanted to go, like, I didn't have any money growing up. I couldn't go on, in college, I couldn't go, like do a semester abroad or something. Well, maybe I'll do it now. And so it was this really kind of like tapping back into this innocence and this childlike wonder of like, what would it mean to show up for myself for once, and I grew my hair, I was always scared about doing that. I was cutting like super short, like it was small as that to as big as kind of like wanting to go to Paris. And so that was really profound for me, obviously, in so many ways. And it's very like eat, pray, love kind of bullshit that I don't like always love, but like, it very, but I was ready to admit that I want, so often we're not ready to admit that we want love, that we want companionship, especially, for cishet men such as myself, growing up in the communities that we grew up in, where, I grew up without a father, for instance, and like all my fathers were like, rap and rock stars and athletes, and what was the language they used? Everyone was a hoe and a bitch and whatever, you know what I mean? And like, even though you loved your mom, or like, then there were the nice girls, but like there's the hoes and what, like this complete, everything is warped, obviously, when you think in that kind of thinking. So I don't know, I'm going on a tangent, but
I love it. Well, I mean, I'm so grateful that you were able to do that for yourself, especially coming from where you did. And, you include some of that in the book. And I think that I think we need to give ourselves a deeper kindness, because when you come from a place, right, like, and you don't have the support, or you don't feel seen as a kid, which was the case for me, you built up an armor, right? And you try to, or one can try to lose themselves in a process or in a career or in even in the fact that you're making beautiful art and it's your passion, you can still sort of get caught up in the sort of the doing of it, right? And I think that's capitalism. That's the toxicity of capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's beautiful that you're able to pause and like, let's take a step back and do all the things that I had maybe wanted to when I was younger and now can. And to your point about love and finding love, romantic love and like deep, I see you love is vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And, and vulnerability in men, right? Cishet men is tough for many, right? For a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And we need it. we need it because we're human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so being there and knocking on the door saying, you know what, I'm ready. No, I'm actually really ready. Because a lot of times you say you're ready and it's like, but I'm ready to meet this wherever I'm at. Like you like punching in your time clock, and it's a case study, it's really, I've done this several times in my career with certain projects, and this is a case study about going after love unapologetically, even at the risk of being hurt, and really like, and it's about trying to dig deeper. And it's about finding the spectacular in the ordinary, and that's really what it was for me. So that's like the part one of this whole thing. And then the part two, which is the 8 stages of kind of heartbreaking grief, through this story, that was about going backwards, That was about meeting little Timmy, and dealing with those traumas and that healing, and why I constantly react to relationships the same way, and what my attachment issues are. Why do I have something called abandonment depression and an attachment disorder? And, really showing up for myself for the first time in a breakup, and not, and really being activated in that sense.
And probably facing the truth of, okay, here are the things that I could have done better, and here are the things that they could have done better, and looking at it honestly and with compassion.
100%. And coming out of that too, it's like I was thinking about this the other day. Like everything I am, everything I create as an artist has to involve everything like I've ever been. A son, a grandson, a nephew, a brother, a cousin, a friend, a boyfriend, an ex, a lover, someone who is courageous and a sensitive softie, but someone who's also a shallow, selfish asshole at times. Someone who loves, who's an ex-coffee drinker and drinks tea, like someone who's a teacher and a student, and like Clevelander and a New Yorker, like all of these things. A traveler, someone who's a house painter and now an artist, like a reader, a writer, like everything must include everything I've been. Like all of that, every time I touch a piece of paper or whatever, or a wall or like all of that has to come out in that stroke.
Yeah.
Or else it doesn't.
All of us.
Yeah. And I don't know. And that's a part of being seen and seeing, and I think that's all we can ask for in a lot of ways.
Well, it's the wholeness of you, Timothy, little Timmy. That's the wholeness of you, right? Like I've done the last couple of years, I've been doing a lot of like looking back on my childhood self, and I was someone like you, and this is like the part of the book that I really, really connected to you, and I saw you, and I'm like, I feel you, buddy, where you said something along the lines of like seeing 2 adults in pain and how it made you never want to open up your heart. And I feel for you. And cause I did the same, you shut down, right? Because it's your armor. It's your survival tool. Yeah. And that armor takes time to break down, And so like you and me and anyone else who has put that armor up to sort of survive has to give themselves compassion in the process, because it's a lot of work worth doing, but it's hard, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And you can't expect anything else. Like, when you do see that kind of pain from two adults, your parents, um, and you see that kind of thing in front of you, or these arguments and this pain and this deep disconnect, uh, it's only natural in so many ways, that I would grow up equating, marriage or love or companionship with, something that I considered weakness for a long time, or something that I considered maybe a quote unquote man didn't have time for, or whatever, and you hide yourself in other forms of whether it's, addictions or vices or, whatever one does to get through the day in some way. And so, but in my quest to be a more like self-actualized person, self-actualized man in this world, it was imperative that I kind of confront that. And so I'm thankful for that. And it was painful, and it's still painful in ways, obviously. And
Yeah. How, so you have this, you called it a eat, pray, love moment. It's not really that, right? I think that's such a universal moment. I think I certainly found myself in my 30s going through a similar sort of transformation. And I talk about this often, but it's like when I met Jessica in 2007, very different person than I am now, right? And that's, there's grief in that, and there's beauty in that, and it's also essential that we change, right? But I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? Gosh, my brain sometimes.
Forgive yourself. Have compassion.
Yes. Have compassion.
I mean, you just made me think about just something just in terms of the different versions of ourselves, of course, and that's something that I've been struggling with recently after, kind of like quote unquote post pandemic. It's just like there's this glip in the matrix of like 2 years that, or whatever, that have kind of like, which I equate to like, going under with surgery and getting, what do you call it? What is it called when you get when you
when you
go under
job?
surgery?
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, when you go under surgery and you get a
like a mask, like anesthesia.
Anesthesia.
There
When
you
you
go.
get anesthesia,
We found it.
we found it. When you get anesthesia, it's like that you're not sleeping. Doctors still haven't kind of like figured out exactly scientifically what happens.
It's like a
but
mystery.
you have no recollection, and it's just a complete kind of like delete of your life. And I kind of feel like that about the pandemic, like I'm mourning in a lot of ways, like some former version of myself, and I've become someone else that I'm not quite sure who this person is in a lot of ways. And so we've lost time, we've lost actual people, we've lost connections, we've lost relationships, we've lost careers. There's so much that has happened in that time, and it's like now because of, you talk about capitalism, like we're expected to kind of like be right back at it. And kind of expected to kind of like keep performing and working as if we're not all kind of like traumatized from this is just a lot. So,
isn't that what we see again and again and again, right? Like it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, where if we're not looking at it, if we're not being curious and softening into our harder feelings, right, we're just going to get used to bypassing it and forgetting it. And then when it comes up, like a global trauma, like we've all experienced, and losing over 1 million people, horrifying. And yes, we're expected to kind of move on, get back to the 9 to 5 and keep grinding away. And that's a trauma in and of itself. In addition to the fact that, we lost people and we maybe lost our jobs, or we lost our sense of normalcy, and we lost our anchors to what we valued then, and maybe we don't value now. And that's that's hard and that's grief laden and
No, it's a lot,
yeah.
and obviously there's so many different kinds of societal forms of that, whether my partner Tina, she's from Iran, and everything that's happening over there right now
Oh
is
God, yeah.
so heartbreaking and devastating. And there's been a lot of tears shed over the last couple of months and nights, sleepless nights because of that. And she has family there, you know. But this isn't new in any real way.
Hmm.
And the same can be said in so many other ways. Whether I was just listening to uh, podcast with these Black activists talking about the quote unquote summer of George Floyd or Black Lives Matter, and it's
Mm,
like they're like, hello, like this has been going on forever. Obviously,
yeah,
like everyone just decided that summer they're going to rise up, and where are we now? No one's talking about it. No one cares. They didn't care before. They didn't care after. It's only when it's in vogue or whatever, you know.
performative. Yeah,
And so I don't have any real answer to any of this, obviously, but I'm just as an artist, it is, I think, my job to be informed, to give a shit, to talk about it, to try to reflect it back out, whether it's something that is political or societal or personal. Um,
yeah,
I take that responsibility. I don't know. I wouldn't say that I think it's the responsibility of all artists. Maybe it's not. But if you don't think that your art is political in some sense and you don't understand how it connects to everybody, and that could be good or bad, then you are wildly misinformed. I think,
agreed.
as someone who puts things out into the world. So,
Agreed. I think we are all inherently as humans political because we exist in the world and we exist in communities
and we exist in capitalism.
and we
Everything
exist
you
in
do.
capitalism
What is
and we
the
exist in
saying? There's
structural
no,
racism and we exist in all of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
there's no ethical, what did they say? There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. So it's like,
Yeah.
if you're not, I just think that, like, if you're just if you're informed and you're thinking about these things, then you're already sort of more in the realm of being okay than most people, because most, I think it's such a shame and disservice for specifically creative people to not consider that. I mean, I guess you could just say that for all people, but
I think what is clear and what I believe is that, like, passion, activism, advocacy, that stuff is not performative. That stuff requires us to bring our whole humanity to it. And that includes the hard shit, and that includes our privilege, that includes our intersectionality, that includes all of it, because it's all connected. I rail often against the sort of, I mentioned it before, the rugged individualism that sort of permeates our culture. And I think it's just wrong. And I think it fuels toxic masculinity. I think it fuels division in a world where we need more connection, right? We need those reminders of, like, oh, like, we shared this thing. Like, that's an empathy moment, right?
No,
like,
of course.
me reading your
Community,
book,
man.
right? You sharing stories and you sharing your vulnerability and me seeing, like, oh, I see myself in Tim. And that's a beautiful moment, right? That's what we can do as humans.
Yeah. No, and it's about service and it's about community. Service is my word of the year.
Love it.
How can I be more in service of my community here in New York, for myself, for my family, etc. So, but it's funny. It's like that rugged individualism. It's like that fountainhead. Ayn Rand, thing,
Ayn
or
Rand,
it's
yeah,
like,
sure.
or it's that. Which I don't know. I grew up kind of reading that book. When going to design school, it's like kind of a thing you had
The
to do.
Fountainhead, yeah,
Yeah, the Fountainhead.
I mean, we all had our Ayn Rand phase.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Also, like, I've been listening to a lot of Frank Sinatra recently. I think because of the holidays or something. Being in New York too, like the holidays in New York, and like just. But it's like that whole, like, I did it my way. Like, it's that Frank said. It's like. There's a lot of, obviously it's shiny, and it's like,
it is
there's
shiny.
a lot of, it's it's fun to be like, yeah, I did it, and
It is.
you get, get out in the sales and like, be this, but it's not real.
Yeah. Well, to like deepen your compassion potentially is like, it's understandable that like you or I could get to a place where we're like, I'm going to do it on my own because no one, or in my case, I didn't feel supported or seen. And so like, I'd be, it's a big fuck you to that. And be like, hey, I'm going to rebel and go out on my own and fuck you. You have big fuck you energy after experiencing a lot of like being unseen, right? As a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in writing this book, in sort of being, vulnerable and open about your heart and your feelings, like, what do you want? Like, what is your message to sort of someone listening to this, someone reading your book who does identify as a cis man and maybe is holding on to some of that armor, holding on to some of that, like, I have to be a beacon of strength in the world, right? Like, what would you say to that person?
What's the percentage of audience do you think fits that mold for you?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Probably it's a small percentage.
No, I'm just curious. Yeah.
It's probably a small percentage, honestly. There's a lot of feely humans who listen to this show, but maybe those listeners know someone like that, right? And they can share this episode with that person, right? I mean, I have like close friends who I think hold on to some of that, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I still hold on to some of that, if I'm going to be honest here.
Sure.
It's just... So
what would you tell yourself then? How about that?
No, listen, I think what's important, what I think should be understood is that all of it can exist at once. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just a human in this world who's adopted postures and attitudes and behaviors since the moment I was 0. Mm-hmm. So I'm mechanical to it, even in my own liberation of it, even in my unlearning of it, I'm still a victim of it. So to accept that and be okay with that and understand that all of this stuff can coexist at the same time, if I were to sit here and say, "Oh, I'm healed from it, and I'm no longer toxic in any of these ways, or I've kind of shed all the things," it's bullshit, man. Sure. It's bullshit. Yeah. It's like, of course, like, and how it's like, it's like Roxane Gay, bad feminist or something. It's like, how do you come to grips with it in your own terms? Continue to unlearn, continue to fight against it. And continue to love yourself no matter what, and I think that for me, it's about all of that. It's like what I was saying, like everything I've been includes everything I am now or everything I'm going to create. So, I think it's just about understanding that I can both be, this sort of, character that I've always been, maybe, or that, this masculine person, and then I can also cry. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't take away from my masculinity if I identify with myself as a mass person, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or that I can go to therapy and I can ask for help, but I can also, at times believe in my own conviction. Mm-hmm. Or that I can, wear something feminine and still walk with just as much confidence, no matter, because I know I believe in myself and how good I look. Or I can wear something feminine today and then wear something, very masculine tomorrow. Or I can, ask my partner what they like sexually, and not feel like I have this, golden, whatever that is gonna, we can talk about these things. Yeah. Or, any of this kind of stuff, and I think, or that I can tell someone that I love them, or that I can tell someone I haven't talked to in a long time that I miss them.
Yes.
then I can tell another man that I love him, and it doesn't take away from any sort of identification that I might have as a man, as a cishet man. So all of it can exist, and that's for, I just think it's important to also just to just know that, and so I think that's what I would tell someone, and that's what I tell people in my life. It's also, so much of this is about, when we talk about activism, when we talk about, I don't know, it's just so much of it is actually like on the individual level. Like, are you calling out the person who says this around you? Like,
one person
this is
at a
where it
time.
actually matters, like that's actually where it starts to matter. Are you having difficult conversations, even with your progressive mother who voted whatever, but like who believes that this or that, are you still challenging her? Are you confronting her? Now, listen, maybe that's not everyone's bag, but that's what, I believe in, and yeah.
That's leading with your heart. Yeah. And we can do it compassionately with ourselves, with others. Like, I think what sometimes is lost is in like the ways that we can show up in that way. It doesn't have to be combative, right? Yeah. And that just takes like a certain sense of presence and empathy, certainly. Like, one example of like, so I lead empathy workshops on occasion, and there's a section in that workshop where we talk about the types of people who bug the shit out of us as an exercise in like, okay, let's talk about like, how can we soften toward that archetype of a person, right? And the example I always give is like the guy driving that big truck, and they have like huge truck wheels, and maybe they have a Blue Lives Matter flag on their car. And I don't know if you've seen these, but they also have this like plastic testicle sack hanging off the back of their truck.
I haven't seen that, no.
Well, wow. You should be grateful for that, Tim. But
I am.
That's my sort of, but then like, how can I step back and soften? Like, how can I say like, well, I'm probably making huge assumptions about this person. I'm making an assumption that they're a Trump supporter. I'm making an assumption that they hate Black people or whatever. But that's just me building armor toward that person, right? That's me sort of like being defensive and righteous in like my belief system or my framework of life. And while some of that may be sort of subjectively what I believe, it's still important to like take a step back and understand that like, hey, maybe they had testicular cancer, right? And that's why they have the, and it's not a sign of like, I'm going to fuck you or whatever, right? I mean, that's the curiosity that we need as humans.
For sure. And I just also think that so much of this is about, limited information in the world, and like everyone's in their own little silos, and like, it's, so many, I have a lot of folks from back home who are Trump supporters. And it's a very difficult thing because they're coming from a place of, they know what they know, and that's all they know. And so you have a decision to make as someone who might be in their life or might not be in their life. It's like, everyone has to kind of come to grips with that, how they want, like whether that is cutting someone off or keeping them in your life and continuing to have those hard conversations, or trying to be a kind of vessel of light in that way. But how you do it is obviously the most important thing, because if you come at them finger pointing, they're not going to hear you, and so,
yeah, it's a good point.
But I think what's important is that it's just to be able to have those conversations as much as possible.
Absolutely.
But there's no answer to it. It's a very difficult thing, and I know a lot of people go through it.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
and especially the last few years, right? Especially since really 2016. It's a big turning point for sure. You mentioned 2018 you were struggling with depression. Like, how's your mental health nowadays?
My mental health, I think, feels sound these days. Um, I still struggle with work overload at times that can kind of heighten a lot of anxiety if I
Mm,
don't feel, if I'm just kind of wearing myself, if I'm just working a lot,
yeah,
sometimes that can really heighten my anxiety. But it's just, it's a constant kind of like back and forth and managing it. But ultimately, I feel, on a whole, like pretty consistent these days.
that's great.
Yeah. Last year, 2019, no, 2000, I'm sorry, 2021, somewhere in the middle, yeah, not last year, that was 2 years ago. I don't know where maybe it is like end of 2021, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking Xanax. I took it I've done this twice before, where I've
Mm-hmm.
taken it for about 6 months, a clip, 5 or 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that really worked for me to do that. I know that's not what everyone does, or nor should everyone do it that way or whatever. Just me and my therapist and the way we decided to go about it, it actually was a really, very efficient way of doing it, where I kind of like
That's great.
led into it, took it, and then kind of like,
Mm.
kind of, bled off of it the last like month or whatever. So,
Was that helping anxiety or depression?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, both more anxiety at that
Yeah.
at the first time was depression, but so much for me, so much of it is hand in hand, anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
depression.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Whether depression kind of encourages anxiety, or anxiety at times can encourage depression.
Yep.
They're friends sometimes.
They are. Most of the
Yeah,
time, they're friends. Yeah, in
yeah.
my experience, for sure. So you mentioned service being one of your words or your word for 2023. Like,
Mm.
what does that look like for you? Like, do you have like concrete plans to like embody that? Like, how does that inform your art going forward?
Mm.
Your
Yeah.
relationship.
Well, I mean, I think it can kind of like take many forms. Over the years I've been doing, and I want to just continue to do this, but I do a lot of pro bono work, like art murals for like schools and communities and institutions. With kids, I do a lot of workshops with kids,
Mm,
art workshops. So that for me is service,
yeah,
because
that's
so
great.
much of that is about them. It's like even like I just had a Nike shoe come out last month with famous basketball player Kevin Durant for the Brooklyn Nets, and it's been a wild last month.
It's
It's
amazing.
kind of
It's amazing.
legally called the KD 15 Timothy Goodman with Nike. It's been
Jeez Louise.
so, but that came from an act of service where I worked with Kevin Durant's charity foundation in 2020, and I drew all over this basketball court. So his charity foundation, they've been refurbishing basketball courts across America,
Mm,
and a lot of times in impoverished neighborhoods. And so they were doing one in Brooklyn, and I did workshops with the students at this school, PS 315. I did several workshops, art workshops, and then and then we did workshops where they told me what they wanted me to draw on the court. And then, so that's kind of what encouraged the content that I did. And so then it becomes a bigger story. And then you do this and it's like their court. It's no longer
mm,
my court. It's the students, it's the neighborhood's court, it's the community's court. It's like, and they feel a sense of like ownership in that, a sense of pride.
yeah.
Cause then they say, I have the dopest basketball court you've ever seen. And, it's like this. And so there's a sense of pride in it that is no longer about me, and
Mm-hmm.
I think so much, I think if you're doing art right in a lot of ways, then it becomes about like a song. That song is no longer about whoever wrote it. It's about how you kind of form it to your own journey and story wherever you're at. So
I love that.
that's kind of like so much of service for me. And then even just using my platform in different ways. I do this thing a couple times a year where I'll like pay for several people's like online therapy. I'll do like an Instagram post and I'll ask like, if you need therapy, give me like a hands up, and I'll select, several people. Well, I'll pay for a month of their online therapy, and just to get that conversation going for people who, because therapy is such a privilege, and can be so costly, and, and just to also just to continue to encourage people to talk about these things and, be okay without being okay, and all of that. So,
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about the book? We mentioned, I Always Think It's Forever is the book. Comes out January 31st.
There it is.
There it is. I have it as well.
Do you have you don't have the real copy.
I have the ARC, the advanced reader copy.
Look at that spine.
Ooh,
look at that.
Nice. Yeah, I got a ARC paperback.
It smells so good. You really should get it.
I'm going to. It's very well put together. How has that process been? Like writing a book, putting it out into the world, like getting it published, all of that.
I mean, it's like a lot of things, in the sense of like, when I got the book deal and everything, I was like, yeah. And then it was like, oh shit, now I have to make this thing in like 4 months or whatever. I did a pretty comprehensive book proposal to start with. So given that this is a graphic memoir, it's not just, and so I was pretty clear, and everyone bought onto it and believed in it from the beginning of like what this was going to look like, the visual identity of the whole book, how it was going to kind of take shape with, the art, the graphs, and the poetry that all kind of like, unilaterally tells a story. But it was so much work, and it nearly killed me. Because there was like, deadlines, it's like deadlines are my friend and they push me, but it was a lot because, this isn't the only thing I'm doing too. I have a lot of like work going on a lot, and I tried my best to kind of like push things on either end of the deadlines, but there was still like it was hard and very, just wonderful just to really sink my teeth into the making of this book, because it's filled with so many charts and graphs and, and all the ways that I know how to tell a story. So it was so fun just to be able to like have the platform and the space to do that, and to push it. At first it was like going to be 160 pages, and then I was able to push it to 192, which I had to like make so much more work for, but it was like all worth it. And then, given the fact that like I turned in all the, every single piece of this is designed by me, like every single centimeter of this book. So written and designed. So it was a lot,
Yeah, that's typically not the case.
No, of course. Even for people who do graphic memoirs, they're not designing the book
right
along with it. They're doing, like my friend Mari Andrew or whatever, as she writes it and she does, but she's not laying the text out. She's not thinking about like, it's not every single, so it was definitely like, whoa, I put a lot on my plate, but it was all worth it. Definitely worth it. But then, there is this aspect of like, you turn in a book and then there's like 7-8 months or something before it's released. And I'm not used to that in a lot of ways. As a visual artist, I'm used to like that quick satisfaction a lot of the time. Like last year I had my first gallery show, and I did the whole thing in like, it was here in Manhattan, and I created 44 original pieces of canvas and I did it in 12 days leading up to the show opening.
Wow.
And then it was like, but then you get this instant gratification of like the show, and hundreds of people are coming, and I'm selling and it's like, okay. And then it's done, it's like, and this is an interesting process for me, because it feels a little like you kind of have to go back. It's like the story is old, then the making of the book is old, and and then you kind of have to, and now you're like promoting it as it's like, now it's like, it's an interesting.
Did you get in your head a lot? Because I'd imagine I would like start to question things. I would start to like, oh my God, like you thought about something like I want to change this or whatever, but like just the waiting game, like how did that feel?
I mean, when I turned in the files when I was done, I tried. I think it was just so much pent up inside, just from like just the story itself, you know, and like what a profound time that was for me, you know. And so I cried, man. It was just like a lot. But sorry, I forgot your question.
No, I mean, I was just curious about, like, you mentioned like this being very different than like the instant gratification, right? Like having to wait those 7 months, like, did you start to question yourself? Did you have like doubts? Did you feel like anxious?
Yeah. I've felt a lot of anxiety about it the last, 6 months or something. Cause there's just a lot of like things with the publisher. You have to like, okay, you do a cover reveal and then you do this, and you do that. And everything just kind of feels like these breadcrumbs that I'm not used to, that don't feel like natural to me in a sense. Like I'm used to just saying like, I have a Nike shoe out. It's available today. Come by. Or I have a gallery show in a week, and I'm prepared. Or, these kind of things. Or like this is out now or whatever. So it's been it's been a lot of learning on my part in that way. And so,
I mean, is that the marketing machine of like these types of things? Because like me myself, like I create things and I do things, and then I'm just like, I don't want to, like, if people are gonna find, like, they're gonna find it. I don't want to market it. Marketing's like the worst.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's part of the game if you're gonna play it. It's like do this, do that, do this. But it's always, for me, it's like, how do I make it as organic as possible? Yeah. Okay, I have to do an unboxing post. All right, but like, I'll do it now. I'll try to just do it as naturally as possible. That makes the most sense, and not, it's just, and that's what it is. I don't get too hung up on that kind of stuff. I've always been,
that's great.
I've always been an avid self-promoter too. It's always come very natural for me from the beginning. So it's that's like, great. I've always enjoyed sharing what I'm working on, because for me, that's part of what fulfills my goal as an artist, which is connecting to other humans. Yeah. And I want to share my journey. I want to connect to people. I want to have important dialogues. And the more people who see it, the more that will happen. I mean, you would think. And so it's always just been part of like it's never been something that I've struggled with in that sense. That's great. Obviously there's times where I've taken on, some work with a client where I'm like, maybe I should, or like you second guess things, and then you learn, and then you don't do it again. I think early in my career, like 6, 7, 8 years ago, when I started getting like a little bit of an Instagram following, I started doing, like, I would do these kind of things where I like, oh, okay, you want to pay me $1,000 to go to like an ice cream shop and take a picture or something, like, for this brand or something. Okay, I'll do it, but I would know, and then, like, okay, then you learn and you're like, no, this is not serving or fulfilling me as an artist or an individual. And it's certainly not going to it's certainly not helping how I want to be perceived as an artist. Totally. Or, so you stop, and listen, so many people came. I mean, I don't know, this is a bad example. Who's someone who came from a boy band who's considered really good? You're asking the wrong person. Beyonce came. But no, people love.
Beyonce, Destiny's Child, right?
Yeah, Destiny's Child was always considered really good. I was gonna say Justin Timberlake came from NSYNC, but I like some Justin albums. He's a little problematic, but I don't know.
Joey Fatone, was that a guy?
Joey Fatone, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I love that. I love the sort of generosity of spirit that you're talking about as an artist. I thought of Lisa Congdon as someone like that, right? Like,
amazing.
She's been on the show. Like, she is very much like that, like very generous, very like, let's share the thing. This is the thing I'm working on. And like, as someone who likes art, likes her art in particular, right? Like that jazzes me up, right? Like that is like, oh, that's exciting. I'm connecting to her excitement for this thing, right? And
Exactly.
that's important to me. I do have a
No,
question. I do have a question. My friend Heather, who is a fan of yours, she wanted to know like how the murals started for you. I know you do a lot of murals nowadays, and like, what was your first one? Like, what sort of got you into that, doing murals?
Well, first of all, hi Heather, great question. Nice to meet you. Secondly, I did a mural for the Ace Hotel in 2010. It was my first mural. I had a full-time job. I just accepted an offer to go work for Apple. I was only a couple years out of school, out of design school. And I just accepted a job to move. I was still in New York and I was moving to the Bay Area to work for Apple. I was moving to San Francisco. And I did this mural here in New York for the Ace Hotel. And first of all, they weren't offering me any money. And I did a bartership with them. And I know it's a controversial thing, whether we as artists should ever do anything for free or not. Some people are very dogmatic. You never do it. And I do think that there are times where you have to make the decision for yourself, because for me, I was in a very privileged position. Obviously, I had a full-time job already. So the money of that kind of thing wasn't as like, important in regard of like the, in kind of like comparison to the opportunity of being able to do a mural.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone has to kind of make these calls. And I know as a whole, it doesn't help the industry because it really devalues our work. But if you can get something out of it, I think, but if, you have a full-time job and like, you've always wanted to do a mural and someone's going to get like a coffee shop down the street is going to let you do it. Well, you have to decide for yourself whether, So anyways, I made the call and I did this and I locked myself in this hotel room for 3 days over Memorial Day weekend and let me have the hotel room. And they would have different artists do murals in rooms at the time. So I was chosen. I did a sketch. They loved it. They approved it. I locked myself in this hotel room. I had no idea what I was doing. I spent 3 days literally crying while I was doing it. I never felt so, kind of like, I just never felt like so, there was just this moment where like the physical, the mental, and the emotional all kind of like came together while doing something, doing a piece of art that I never felt before, and it begged the question, which was, it just felt so profound, that feeling,
Yeah.
and it really fit me. And I asked the question like, okay, how do I make myself have this? How can I search for this feeling for the rest of my life now? And so part of that was I took amazing photos on the mural and I tried to promote the shit out of it online at the time. And luckily got on a bunch of different like design blogs and stuff like that. And and I still do this to this day. I send out like a MailChimp quarterly about the work I'm doing. I'm always considering like, no one knows who I am. How do you let more people know you're alive when you're doing this kind of work? And so I was doing that with that mural. I was sending it to anybody I've ever had contact with professionally, just saying, hey, I'm excited about this. Check it out,
Yeah.
And so part of the story too is that when I was saying I barely graduated high school. And so when high school was over, I worked full time painting homes and hanging wallpaper for many years for this man named Dave, who was like a life mentor to me for many years. And we worked in these really beautiful homes in Cleveland, and I painted and I hung a wallpaper. And so years later, connecting the dots with murals, the physicality of it all, understanding spatial relationships, understanding all of it clicks and makes sense in my head, because I think I had already previously worked so many years on walls. You know what I mean? So it makes a lot of sense. So like even the first mural I did, I was extremely nervous and but there was a familiarity with it of like the physicality of being on this big wall and working and understanding like, so yeah. And then I think I did my second one a year later, right when I just quit my job at Apple. And then it took a while. And then like my third one, I think I did maybe 6 months to a year after that. So I'd only, within like 2 or 3 years, I did 3 murals.
Mm-hmm.
The other two were paid, but I was working for myself at that point because Apple was my last job. So I was really, out there hustling, trying to get different kinds of work and stuff. But I really leaned in, it's like anything, you can lean in wherever. I leaned into like, oh, I kind of, sometimes you see an opening. You're like, okay, there's a little, you're like a running back looking for a hole on the field. You're like, I see a little opening here. Like, I'm doing these live drawings. People are really reacting to it. It's like sometimes you have to find like, what is the thing most people respond to that also brings you the most joy? And that's like this weird sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, you should still do the things that bring you a lot of joy that maybe a lot of people don't resonate with either.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of frontmen on bands have their little side band, and it's like, Eddie Vedder is still doing his like ukulele thing, but not as many people are buying it as they would a Pearl Jam album. Everyone still do that, but there's this point of like this sweet spot of like what brings you the most joy and what kind of connects to the most people.
Yeah.
And I saw a little opening with that with murals, and people loved them, and the kind of showmanship of them, doing them live, doing them at events, doing them in front of people, doing them on the streets, that engagement always really still like it just brings me a lot of fulfillment. So I leaned in, and kept going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Great answer. Great answer to a great question. Can one still like see pictures of that first Ace Hotel mural you did?
Yes, you could Google my name and Ace Hotel. It's up on all of Google. Also, I just did a post about it on my Instagram. It's probably, I don't know, it's probably for November. So if you go on my Instagram, there's a whole post about that mural and a lot of other things because, I won't get into it, but there was a whole kind of like, there was a whole thing. You can find the post. It's from, it's from November 3rd, 2022 on my Instagram.
Sounds good. I will check it out. I will check it out. Yeah. Well, let's start wrapping it up. We always sort of wrap up the show, Timothy, talking about our empathy heroes. So folks in our lives who are empathetic, compassionate, feely humans, even characters from stories we love, movies, etc. I'll go first to name my empathy heroes. My empathy heroes this week are anyone who joins my new membership community, which, as of this recording, is out. It's coming out in a few days of this January 11th. And if you join and have joined already, I love you. I cherish you. I hope you're having a blast. And if you join before February 11th, I believe, you'll get a founding member price. And I'm excited. I've been putting a lot of work the past year into this membership community. It's about being witness to our whole humanity. There'll be workshops and events regularly, and hope you can check it out. Go to feelyhuman.co/membership is where you can check that out. But yeah, shout out to all the folks who have joined. And maybe none of you joined, and I'm speaking from the past, like a little dum-dum, but I'm assuming a lot of you have joined, and it's overwhelmed with beautiful feely humans. Any hoozles. Timothy, your empathy hero.
My empathy hero probably changes all the time. I was reading Toni Morrison recently, and she said something about like, you want to fly? You gotta give up the shit that weighs you down. And I just love that so much. And I think that her writing and her kind of sensibility as a human is just drowns me in empathy. Like I just feel like this compassion and this kind of like just worldly knowledge, spiritual knowledge of just the act of existence and being human. That really touches me so much. And a lot of people do it in that way, obviously. My therapist too. Shout out to my therapist. I feel the same way with him.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Toni Morrison, therapists who see us, great empathy heroes. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Timothy, where can the Feely humans out there connect with you? Obviously, order your book. I always think it's forever.
Yep.
And all that stuff.
You can follow me on Instagram at Timothy Goodman. Pretty active. Some would say very active. Twitter, you can follow me at Timothy O. Goodman. Not very active. You can find me on other things as well, just by my name. But my book, you can purchase my book. I have a website devoted to kind of links and all that. It's tgoodman.com/books.
Great.
So you can purchase from maybe one of your favorite indie bookstores and it has a kind of description of the book and some pictures and all that. And there's also a link there on that page to book events. So if you want to go there, if you happen to live in or close to the New York City area, there'll be some events the first week of publication. Then I will be in DC and Boston and Los Angeles in February. So if anybody listening is in or around those areas and would like to come, DC is already sold out, unfortunately, I believe, but maybe we'll figure something out.
Awesome.
And I think that's it.
Where in, I'm just south of LA, what bookshop in LA are you doing an event at?
It's at the Grove Barnes and Noble.
Okay, nice.
That one's very exciting. It's with Debbie Millman and Roxanne Gay.
Oh, wow.
Very lucky.
Yeah.
And we'll be getting into it.
Very cool.
Much like we just did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all of those links, listeners, will be in the show notes at feelyhuman.co. Timothy, what a delight this was. What a delight you are as a soft, sensitive, feely human. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, on Spireme Pale Blue Dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.